Toby? Hello? We have a little bit of a situation we wanted to run by you.
Mobius! Wow! Great to see you again!
That's what's been happening.
Wow! Time slipping.
Wait, you know that?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but we just saw it happen.
Yeah.
I've been pulled through time between the past and the present.
Hello?
If what I saw is true, there's nothing to stand between this world and utter destruction.
Only one way to find out. Little good old-fashioned legwork. Listen, we have different styles. You're a man of action, which is fine. I take a more slow, deliberate, cerebral approach. It's really goodbye.
It's up to us to save this place.
Is this cracked?
You're good.
Whatever we do, we're playing God.
We are gods. But how do you choose who lives and who dies?
Make the hard choice.
It's him.
You better run!
War is on its way. Come on, you're the god of mischief.
Always have been. Always will be.
A little over the top, don't you think?
I thought it was spot on.
Welcome back to the Cinema Club podcast. My name is Christopher Amick, and I will be your host for today's episode of the Cinema Club, which is like a book club, but for movies. Every episode, we invite one member of the Cinema Club to be a co-host for the episode who will choose the movie or television show and join Nick or myself on the podcast to talk about the film or episode. Today, we are covering the TV miniseries Loki, specifically Season 2, episodes 1 through 4. And I am joined tonight by John Roney and Jesse Tashi. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. It's great to be here, Chris. Thanks for inviting us back on.
Yes, I'm excited to be back.
Absolutely. And I will be honest with you guys, I have missed both of you. I was having such a good time covering Secret Invasion. I already blacked it out because I did not enjoy that show, but I enjoyed my time with you both. And no, I really appreciate you both rescheduling a few times now due to illness and traveling and whatnot to jump into the show. That's over halfway through now. And I did want to give a quick spoiler warning, as always, that we are going to be diving into all of the details of Loki Season 2, episodes 1 through 4. So definitely check out those episodes if you have not already done so before listening to this episode. But tonight, since we are 4 episodes into the show, I did just want to have an open discussion where the three of us can just talk about our thoughts, and we can definitely go through them sequentially, but also just bounce around wherever the conversation takes us. Should probably also ask how this you have been, since it's been a while since I had you on the show. What have you been up to? Been watching any other fun shows?
In the same vein of Loki, the actor who plays X5 is in this show that Max and I just started watching on Stars, which is a very random streaming service to have, but my friend has it and she lets us watch on there with her. It's called Blind Spotting, and he's a main character in it. But what's cool about that show is it's a dramedy, but it's also mixed with spoken word poetry and interpretive dance.
Wow.
It's so different, but it's good. Also, I really like it because Jasmine Cephas Jones plays the main character, and she was in Hamilton. For anyone who is a Hamill fan, she played Peggy and Mariah Reynolds, but she is fantastic and adorable, and I love her.
Awesome. I'll definitely have to check that one out because I have not heard of that one. Is it a Stars original?
It is. It's just on their streaming service, I believe.
Okay. Have you been checking anything out lately, John?
Yeah, I know it's late because it's been out a while, but I recently got into Only Murders in the Building. And I had a friend recommend it to me a year and a half ago. And I finally just decided to get into it. And it's good. Steve Martin and Martin Short, the Martins, they have just such amazing chemistry. And Selena Gomez, I haven't always been a big fan of hers, but she plays off them so well. And it's just really fun. It's a good show. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. It's very quirky.
I love it so much. It's so fun and cute, and I love it.
I know my wife really likes that show, but I haven't personally jumped into it. Nothing wrong with catching up on a show that's been out for a while either, John. That's what I've been doing lately. Like I've been watching season 3 of The Witcher, been catching up on that. Been watching Gen V on Amazon Prime, The Boys spinoff, which has been actually surprisingly really good. So out of fantasy, because also we were covering Ahsoka on the podcast a few weeks ago. So yeah, a lot of good stuff, but awesome. Glad to hear we're all enjoying good TV, sounds like. And yeah, as far as Loki goes, how are you guys enjoying that show? I know we all really enjoyed season 1 of Loki. John, I think it was your top ranked show. I think Jesse and I had it like top 2 or 3. We are over halfway through season 2. So how is it measuring up to your expectations? What are your feelings?
Yeah, as much fun as it was to cover Secret Invasion with you guys, I actually think Loki 2 is quite a bit better. But yeah,
Yes.
I really liked it so far. I felt at times like, where are we going with this? Like, I thought Kang was supposed to be the big bad of this, and like he's not in the first 2 at all. But then the way they've tied him in 3 and 4, I've loved it. It's been really good.
Yeah, I think so far it's just as good as season 1, just different, but so good. I'm enjoying it. I'm really loving the actor who plays Kang, Jonathan Majors. I think he's doing a good job of playing. He played He Who Remains so differently than he's playing Victor Timely, and I love it.
That's a really good point, Jesse. He's played a few different versions of Kang now, and they're all so different.
I cannot wait to see how many versions we truly get in all of these future properties. Who knows when they'll come out, because the strikes throw things off rightly, but I'm very excited because I don't remember if it's the next Avengers movie or if it's just one in the lineup of Phase 5 and 6 is supposed to be Kang Dynasty. So obviously there's going to be a lot of Kangs. I'm excited.
I just looked it up. It's supposed to come out May 1st, 2026. I have a feeling it might get pushed. But that's not too far away if it does actually come out in 2026, because we're almost through 2023.
I hope it doesn't. Only because I want them to take their time and don't feel like they have to rush just because this is when they originally announced. Because how long was the strike? The strike was like a while. I don't want them to feel like they have to make up for lost time. Just push it. It's okay. We want a good story, not a rushed one.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly fine with Christmas release, do Christmas release, and then the next May, do the next Avengers. I think it's supposed to be like Secret Wars. We haven't had a good Christmas Marvel movie in forever. I feel like that'd be a really fun experience to have. I love doing it with the Star Wars movies.
I was about to say, I think Disney's been planning out like Star Wars and Avatar. But yeah, a solid Marvel movie is something I would definitely enjoy around the holiday season. This year we get like what? Aquaman? We're going to have the Marvels coming out next month.
I know y'all aren't excited.
I know. I was about to say.
Are you guys planning on doing the watch episode 6 and then hop in your car and go into the theater and see the Marvels right afterwards?
Maybe
I have not thought about that. Not to get too sidetracked, but I've really enjoyed Kamala Khan in Miss Marvel. We talked about that at length, but really enjoyed her character. I'm not super attached to, I don't even know her name, but the character from WandaVision.
Monica Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau, yes, thank you. Not super attached to her. I'm curious to see if we get a better insight on her character a little bit. But I think part of it too, honestly, this feels like a cop-out, because it's a lot of Marvel movies, but this one just felt like super CGI.
Oh yeah.
All the trailers, especially compared to something like The Eternals, which had some on location shooting. When I compare those two trailers, it's like, whoa, it's like really noticeable. And not to say that can't be great or anything, but I just don't know if I'm personally in the right headspace for it, if that makes sense. Where I'm going to be watching green screen and
Yeah.
CGI constantly.
And I'm normally not one for that either. And I don't love more of the very like techie side of sci-fi. So it's not normally something, but I just happen to all three of those characters a lot. And I do really like Captain Marvel. I know everybody does not, but I do.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. Like it's weird because like for me, Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel are like on opposite ends. For me, where like when Captain Marvel came out, it was like at the height of the best part of the MCU, was like in between the Infinity War and Endgame. And so I was so hyped for that. And I left and I was like, it was all right, but I just fell short. And then like Miss Marvel, I had no expectations. I was like, oh, it's actually pretty good. So they were probably like about equally good for me, but one I had super high and one super low. And so I liked Miss Marvel better just because it exceeded the expectations.
Yeah, it's also been interesting kind of seeing the estimated opening weekend numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head, but the movie is projected to be one of the lower end opening weekends as far as box office numbers go. Still really good for a movie in general, just on the lower end for a Marvel movie. Also, I think it's supposed to be the shortest runtime for a Marvel movie ever. And not to say it's going to be like super short. I think it's still an hour 45 or something. So it just isn't going to be like a 2-hour superhero fest, which may serve the movie better. I don't know. It's definitely something where I'm interested in it, but I'm not going to be rushing out to go see it. But I'll definitely be interested because it's something where Marvel, like that box office with that film did awesome, blew it up. I think that was that $1 billion film?
Captain Marvel? Oh, maybe I don't know. I have no idea.
Can't remember.
All I remember about that movie coming out is everybody hating on it, and I was like, but wait, I actually liked it. Why is everybody hating on it? I don't know.
Yeah, it was $1 billion film.
Wow.
So yeah. So like you were saying, John, it did come out in theaters when things were really heating up with the MCU as far as a finale. But also, I think the female audience had a part of that as well. So I'm interested to see what happens with the new film coming out next month, just because I think that there's so many factors involved, and we're past, I feel like, COVID affecting the box office at least. So now it's that game where, oh, are we going to go see it? Or are we going to wait a few months and watch it on streaming on Disney Plus? But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what ends up happening with the Marvels film. I know we got sidetracked with that, which
That's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, no, this is great. We can talk about all the Marvel stuff. For me, I've been enjoying Loki season 2, and Sarah and I both really enjoy it. So it's something that we typically try and do either Thursday or Friday evening when we get off work, to sit down and watch the newest episode of Loki. So that alone is something that I really enjoy doing.
But after episode 4, now are you feeling it?
I don't know. It was a WTF moment for sure, where I was like, the hell? That's how we're gonna end things. I'm definitely interested to see how they wrap things up in a nice bow, hopefully, in the next 2 episodes. So I know that's been also something we talked about, where some of these shorter Disney Plus shows don't always stick the landing, like some other shows we've covered.
No. And we're in that sweet spot right now where 3 and 4 of most, if not all of these shows are like good. And then something happens episode 5 and 6. Oh, I'm hoping it's good. I am hoping and praying that it does well.
Yeah, like season 1 of Loki was the same way. And then I thought episode 5 of season 1, they go off on that random side adventure, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then they nailed the ending on 6. I'm hopeful that they'll at least nail the ending, even if 5's a bit of an odd episode.
You're right. Because that was my least favorite episode of all of season 1. I'm like, I really do not care about this. I know I should care about this planet because they're all literally about to die, but I don't. And I'm bored.
That was one with the train, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was definitely the weakest episode for me as well in season 1. As far as season 2 goes, I've thought they're all pretty solid.
Yeah. So one of the things I really liked about episode 1 is I was so excited about Obi's character. Seeing him, I didn't realize he was going to be in Loki, or it didn't register who the actor was. And I've never saw the Goonies, but apparently he was a big character in that as a kid. But I loved him in everything, everywhere, all at once. And he basically is playing the same character here. The guy who is like the guide through like how all this weird time travel stuff works. I love him in this role. He is so good. He does a great job of helping ratchet up the tension, but also being comic relief at the same time without cutting the tension, in my opinion. And that's a tough thing to do. And I think he nails it.
He does. He is similar in Goonies because he's like the gadget kid. So like he has all of the gadgets that help them through to the end. And he's just so fun. He's probably my favorite character in Goonies. He's just great. I love Goonies so much. I love him in general. I think he's adorable, and I'm so happy he's here.
Yeah, it really is perfect casting. Like, it's hard for me to imagine season 2 without this actor. Honestly.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, John, he does such a good job of that balancing act where it comes to comedy, but then not playing too much into some of the Marvel comedy that we've sometimes gotten. Like, one line I had written down in episode 2 is he says, "We're all gonna die. Oh, hi, nice to meet you." It's a little quirky, fun, polite, yet super like sincere deliveries that I really enjoy about Obi in this show.
Yeah, like I had that one down, wanted to mention it because I love that line. Thought he delivered it perfectly. And then also like earlier in that same episode, when Mobius and Loki come to him with that remote gadget that they want him to try to fix, he asks, "Is this a higher priority than preventing the temporal meltdown?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "Oh, prudent." Just okay, yeah, makes sense, guys. Whatever. Just
And what's best about that line is he wasn't even saying it sarcastically. He wasn't even being like, "Come on, man, this is not more important." No, he was genuinely being like, "Oh, is this more important? Okay, then let's focus on this other thing." It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's that inquisitive yet sincere character. I love it. Wanted to dive into this a little bit, but I was really noticing it in episode 1 when I made first note of it. I think episode 1 actually does the best job of showcasing this, but the tracking shots that they utilize in episode 1 specifically, I thought were really well done, especially when they're running down these hallways and the camera's just following with them. It was very immersive, and just the sets slash CGI, whatever they're doing, they really captured the movie magic aspect, I felt, of a movie, of a TV show, right? It just felt very well done. Even the color palettes they've been utilizing, absolutely love them. And I'll just have that thought like every single episode. I won't even be thinking about that going into it. It's a whole week later. And I'm like, oh, wow. I love how they use this color here and they tie it into all the outfits and the walls and the pie or whatever. It's great. On that aspect of things, I've been really happy with it.
And just for your benefit, a lot, if not all of these sets are real and these props are real.
Okay.
Obviously, there's still CGI with Miss Minutes and all the magic stuff and all the time stuff. But like these rooms and things like in the TVA and places, they're all real. They're all real, which is insane.
Cool.
Dude, those lights, I can't. They're so good. I love it so much. I don't want to speak for anyone, but I feel like this is why a lot of people are responding well to Loki, is because, like you said with the Marvels trailer, this is feeling very real and lived in. It's not feeling disconnected in CGI.
I feel like a lot of phases 4 and 5 projects, people have really tried to do something different and creative. And in my opinion, a lot of them have fallen really flat. A lot of these projects have not worked, or at least not worked as well as 1 through 3 worked. But this one feels very unique and creative with the cinematography, with the music score, with the color palettes of the rooms. And it works. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're trying something just to be different. It feels like what we're trying, we put a lot of thought into like how it actually fits with this story we're telling, and also the broader MCU story. It doesn't feel like this is completely divorced from the rest of the MCU the way some of the stuff has, and it's working.
Definitely. I think it's really cool too that you did share, Jesse, that a lot of the sets feel lived in because they are actually set up, at least in some capacity. Like even in tonight's episode 4, I just was really admiring just taking in the pie cafeteria where the whole wall is just key lime pie. And I just thought it was just really well done. I was like, wow, that looks great. I
Mhm.
can totally see myself walking down this corridor and going into the cafeteria to eat some key lime pie.
Yeah, like the pie room scene. Have you guys seen Better Call Saul?
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, these are two very different shows, but like the key lime pie scenes feel to me almost like something out of that, just because Better Call Saul had so many times where they would take something that if you just were to read the script, like that's really boring, but they made it really fascinating just by all these cool shots, the color palette, all the cinematography made the mundane interesting. And I
Mm,
feel like the key lime pie scenes always do that. It's just this should be a boring scene, but it's so fascinating because of the colors, and also Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston are just the national treasures. Maybe not of our country, but of some country in Tom's
yeah.
case. And the actress who plays Sylvie also just nails her stuff when she's in that room too.
This is on the same vein as sets. I haven't looked into this, so I don't know, but I'm really excited at the prospect that somewhere out there, there actually is a McDonald's that's been preserved in peak McDonald'sness and isn't this weird, boring, as they say, millennial McDonald's. I hope it's real. I hope they didn't just copy what we all remember it looking and make a set. I really hope it still exists somewhere out there, and I love it.
I'm pretty sure that's an old Pizza Hut because like it has that hut look in the front of it. I think that's probably an abandoned Pizza Hut that they turned into a McDonald's for the set.
To be real,
I could
miss
be wrong.
those
That's just what
McDonald's.
I could be wrong. That's just what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
I hope for your sake I'm wrong, Jesse.
Jess is gonna go check out every McDonald's in Oklahoma now. Where is it?
I gotta find it.
No, that was something I wrote down that I wanted to ask you both about, because some of the conversation around episode 2 was some people had issue with McDonald's being heavily involved with the episode, and some people didn't bother them. How did that come across to you both?
Yeah, for me, like I didn't have any issue with that because if you want to show someone living just like a very ordinary lower class or lower middle class type of life, not rich, just like an ordinary person going through a fairly boring, mundane thing. I feel like it's either McDonald's or Walmart you pick for that because that's so relatable. That's so many
Exactly.
people's first or second or temporary job while they're in college or whatever. And I didn't have an issue with that. I actually thought it was really fun product placement. If you're going to do product placement, I thought it was a fun way to do it.
Yeah, because like when out in the world and you're talking about things, that's the phrase. It's always, oh, what are you gonna be flipping burgers at McDonald's? Or oh man, I don't want to get stuck at McDonald's. That is the phrase people use. So it just makes sense to me. Also, like you're saying, if you're gonna do product placement, that's how you do it. The shots that annoy me are the shots where they linger too long on an awkward bottle of Pepsi. No, that's stupid. It serves no purpose to the narrative whatsoever. This is fully integrated into the narrative and it's beautiful. And McDonald's is relatable to everyone on some level. And it also works because, just like we were talking about the set design, that period, the way McDonald's looks, is so nostalgic for people. So even if you don't like the character of Sylvie, let's say, or you don't like where the story is going, at least those moments then all of a sudden become relatable to you because now you're feeling nostalgia and you're feeling some connection to it and you're feeling some emotional attachment to it.
Yeah, and even the line by Mobius about what a delicious meal here, or I gotta try some of their apple pie. It fits so well with his obsession for trying new foods. He just has a zest for trying foods. Like everywhere he goes, he's like, we have time for a drink. We have a time for pie. And just in the midst of all this craziness, the man's going to try some new food. And it fit in.
Yeah. Yep.
That's true. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but yeah, he is like all about that Cracker Jack in episode 3. He's all about trying the food wherever he's at. I appreciate those thoughts because I didn't have an issue with it. It was definitely something that I was like, okay, they're really hammering home McDonald's here. I gotta go try this Loki sauce at McDonald's here. Spoiler, it's not that great. But
Oh,
I didn't have an issue with it. I thought you did a really nice job, Jesse, of kind of sharing why you thought it fit so well. And like you mentioned, it's something where today we're like, oh, what are you going to do? Flip burgers for the rest of your life? But it's something where we see Sylvie embrace that lifestyle. And I just in this moment had a completely different perspective on that whole episode now. So that was cool. Thank you for that. I put a note that said loving Loki's outfit / jacket.
Mhm.
Because Tom Hiddleston wears that well.
Mhm.
And maybe it was because it was in such stark contrast to going to Oklahoma in the 80s, but we loved that. And I think you made another good point, Jesse, about McDonald's in the 80s being a nostalgic type of thing. And even if it's something that we've experienced personally, we still get that feeling. I would compare it to like the ice cream store in the mall and Stranger Things, right? It's something where
Mhm.
it's like, oh, I didn't experience that, but I totally see why people look back upon that fondly.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's the type of thing that you feel nostalgia for, even though it's not like your nostalgia. You're just like, this is nostalgia.
And was it episode 2 or episode 3 where we basically find out billions of people are being killed?
That's the
Oh,
end of episode 2, I believe.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
They talk
brutal.
Sylvie into coming back with them, and that's what they find out's happening.
Okay. Series is definitely dark because episode 4 have been real dark too with that box. They do not stray away from that. And the timelines being pruned, like in episode 2, it's hard to swallow, but they do a good job of mixing it because it isn't our timeline. Our timeline technically is the sacred timeline, or that's how they've made us feel throughout all these phases, is that's the one we're living in. It's a good balance they're doing of pulling on your heartstrings of like all these people dying. And also it makes sense why some of the people in the TVA do not care, because why would you? There's so many people. You can't know everyone in every single timeline. And there's a lot of timelines. And at the same time, we feel that weight in that episode of, oh my goodness, billions and billions and billions of people just ceased to exist.
Yeah, the first time I watched it, I felt like I should feel more about this, and then I did feel a little bit more the second time I watched that scene. I wish they would have shown, like, when Thanos did the snap, how they show a handful of people turn to dust. I wish they
Yeah.
would have done something like that with the timelines, even if it's just a couple people randomly just like disappearing. But yeah, it was still just wow, that's technically like the most destructive thing we've seen in the MCU, I think.
Thanos just zapped half of the sacred timeline. He didn't zap literally half of, or was it more than half of all the timelines? I don't remember how many timelines they zapped. So many. So many.
Yeah, I do feel what you're saying, John. I only watched the episode once, but it did feel almost, I don't want to say shoehorned, but I'll say shoehorned in the last 6 minutes of the episode. Oh, hey, this major thing just happened. Okay, the end. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
man, that's
Mhm.
heavy.
And
Yeah.
the actors in the scene did a really good job because that's probably the most emotion I felt for that scene was watching them, because they're literally like B-15 is losing it. She's staring at the TVA screen in literal utter horror. Fantastic acting right there. And so all of those actors did carry that emotion in that scene, and they did it so well. But like you said, if they had maybe showed a little bit more instead of told, it's always better to show than to tell. They were showing with the screen and showing the branches disappearing, but they're literally just analog lines. That's it. Like they could have gone to a couple of those timelines and showed things disappearing. And then we might have been like, oh my goodness.
If they could have, because like on the analog screens, like the lines were disappearing like in reverse. If they could have somehow shown like just a random scene, some random restaurant or school or where things are disappearing and people are like going in reverse and slowly fading or something, that could have been really cool.
Yeah.
Like dark, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it sucks with any tragedy. It's definitely something that I feel numbers are one thing to look at, and then it's, oh, you put a face to a tragedy, put a couple faces to a tragedy, and it hits home a lot more emotionally. So I was surprised that, like you guys were saying, they just decided to basically have on the screen the offshoot timelines disappear. It still was impactful, but it definitely could have really gone for the heartstrings there if they wanted to do.
Yeah, and then afterwards, Sylvie back in like that timeline in 1980 something, Oklahoma McDonald parking lot, and she's saying goodnight to like the manager or her coworker, whoever he was, and does he have a ride home? And just like that very ordinary conversation she's having with this guy she works with right after she saw all that. But you can just see on her face, she's broken inside from what she just saw. And then I love that song. I didn't know what the song was, so I looked it up, and it's called Cosmic Blues. So I was like, oh, that's really fitting for what just happened.
For real.
Yeah, because it's her fault. That all happened.
Yeah.
I've been mad at Sylvie this whole season. I'll be transparent with you both. Because I'm like, you were the one who messed this up so bad. And you're just in denial about it, trying to put it off on other people, and also resistant to even trying to help. On episode 4, she's doing a better job. But I think that shows her through partially confronting that within herself. But episodes 1 through 3, I've been a little upset with Sylvie's character.
I feel like she's just having a lot of misplaced anger. And the person she should have been mad at was He Who Remains. Yes, you're right. But also, I don't know, the TVA was working under him. So why are you so mad at the TVA? It's just like corporations. You can't really be mad at the workers. You can't go to a Chipotle and be mad at them that they're charging you for guacamole and queso because that's not their fault. That's literally the person at the top making the rules. They just have to follow it. Misplaced anger, and now a bunch of people just died, which is exactly the opposite of what you were trying to do, Sylvie. You're mad because you lost your rightful alternate life. You just ruined that for billions and trillions of people too. So far there isn't a way, but maybe somewhere out there's a way that's better than what's happening.
Yeah, the way Loki was talking about is like, I just wanted a minute to think. I think that was episode 1. He said that. And yeah, that totally makes sense. That's a huge decision whether or not you kill this king. Is he lying or being truthful about the consequences if you kill him? That makes sense to want to take a minute to talk it over and really think it through before you do it.
That's the other thing. Like the end of season 1, he's totally willing to just like hand over the ring. So I feel like they also could have picked his brain for a little bit and been like, so what do we do? And how do we handle things? And just talk it through. And then sure, Sylvie, you can have your revenge if you really want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not alone in that. Yeah, like you're saying, Jesse, she just has some displaced emotions, I think, which happens to all of us.
Yeah, I think denial is such an easy place to go when something really bad happens and you're partially responsible for it. And she's the main one responsible for what happened, like all this chaos that started because of killing the original king. And yeah, that'd be such a tough thing to just take full ownership of the consequences for that. That's really gotta weigh heavy on you. I don't know. I would probably be a bit in denial too if I was responsible for trillions of people dying.
I did want to take a moment and just pause to share that the Cinema Club podcast is 100% supported by you, our listeners. So if you are enjoying the show, and if you are wanting to support the show and continue to help it grow, please consider clicking the support button on our website. You can check that out at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/the Cinema Thank you so much. And now let's return to the episode. Something I did really enjoy in, I believe it's episode 2, was when Loki was chasing down Brad, and then he had the multiple versions of himself and the shadows and everything. I was like, oh, cool. We could just see a little bit of the bad or badass Loki here.
The shadow scene where the shadows had actual physical properties to them. That was so good. That was so good.
Yeah, I had a good time with that for sure.
Yeah, episode 2, that was also the 2 interrogation scenes. And you really gotta see that he's trying to be the good guy overall now. And that's still kind of weird for him. Because when he gets a chance to do some bad stuff for a good cause, like he jumps on it. Like you can see like he gets happy during the first interrogation scene. Like you just see a change in his face. Like he's enjoying this when he gets to try to like really intimidate him. And when Brad starts talking about like, you're so bad, like you've done so many bad things. And Loki's just like, yeah, I have. He really he almost had that feeling of Black Widow in the opening of Ultron, where she's the one in the chair tied up and being tortured or whatever, but she's on the phone and yeah, no, I've got this idiot right where I want him. And Loki feels that way where it just clicks. Oh, this is part of his reasoning I can use this against him.
Totally. And I enjoyed so far episode 1 and 3 the most in season 2. And I just really enjoyed that we got to explore this whole new offshoot of the Loki show in episode 3. Getting to see a young Victor Timely and then the whole interaction between Miss Minutes and Ravonna. Yeah, I was really enjoying episode 3 a lot because we finally got to see where the Ant-Man 2 post-credits scene takes place.
Episode 3 is probably my favorite also, mostly because I just love historical things. So let's go back. I love it. But there were so many good character moments too. And I like that everybody's in it now. Because the first 2 episodes, it's like, where's Ramona? Where's Miss Minutes? What's happening? Everything feels very chaotic and not quite coming together yet. Episode 3, everything was together now. And you're like, okay, we're in the story. This is the plot. And it was great. And I loved it. Also, the scene where Miss Minutes is trying to convince him to make her a person. Oh, I hated it, but loved it. It's so creepy and gross, and it made me uncomfy, but I loved it. I literally thought it was going to happen. I thought she was going to personify, and I was like, she's already too powerful and weird. I don't want it. But it didn't happen, so thank goodness.
Yeah, that was weird. That creeped me out. Like when she puts her face over the mannequin doll, what's like, is that called Uncanny Valley or whatever? But it had that effect. It was just like, ugh.
Gross. Also, she's so good. She's a great character, but she scares me, which she's supposed to. She's supposed to scare me, but I don't like it. I don't like her. She's scary. Also, in episode 4, she has now completely transformed from this happy, round, oval eyes. She has a permanent scowl. Her eyes are completely, permanently evil now. So she's just fully embracing her evilness, and it's terrifying, and I don't like it. She's scary.
Yeah, on a little bit lighter note with her. Well, that first conversation she's having with Renslayer, the Renslayer's quick hide, and she tells Miss Spence, you don't exactly blend in. Miss Spence is like, oh, let me just slightly dull my color, because a dulled floating animation fits into 1990s Chicago.
Yes. Like, it was brilliant. It was so fun. You're still a floating talking clock that is clearly animated. Like, she didn't even make herself look like a real clock. No, she's an animated floating talking clock. Just think about how terrifying that would be in 1890s Chicago people's shoes. And then when she is big and she's just stomping through, your mind would be blown. Movies didn't even exist yet. There's no logical reason for this to be happening in the slightest. Sure, you're at the World's Fair, so weird things are happening all around you, but that's too much. I feel like people would have died of shock just there in that scene. Oh, terrifying.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying, at least in my perspective, emergence of this character more so in season 2. Like, she was definitely more of a severe side character in season 1, but I definitely feel like she's become more of a main character in the second season. And I'm just really always enjoying, even if it's the corner of the screen in the background, her reaction to things. Like when Victor Timely and her are bonding on the water, and you just see Miss Minutes' face in the background, all pissed off and jealous. I love that. Also, following up on that, Victor Timely and Miss Minutes dropping Renslayer / Ravonna in the dinghy was a brutal, cold move. I was like, damn.
People are making cold moves all over, constantly backstabbing each other.
And the thing about that scene that I really liked is that it was set up well earlier during the exhibition of his invention, where someone was like, hey, I'll become partners. I'll be the finances behind it. You be the brains type thing. And he's, I don't do partners. And then like they call back to that line where he's, I don't do partners after he drops her off. And it's, oh, yeah.
I want to know why. What happened in his past that he doesn't do partners? Are we going to see that? Or is that just a fun little interesting character quirk about him? Or is it actually something important? I don't know, but I love it either way.
Yeah, I took it more of as a character trait was baked into him at this point. And I think that's partially because it's always just been him. him in the book. But yeah, episode 3 was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because when he gets to TVA and he meets Obi, it seems like he's okay with being viewed as Obi's equal, but like nobody else, because no one else is on his level of intellect. And then he meets Obi and you're like, oh no, this guy is an equal. No one else is, but this one guy.
Which makes sense because, like you were saying, Chris, like he was alone with this book for so long. So, of course, that would be the one person he's okay with being like partners with because it's been like his idol. The person he looked up to was the author of this book, which is also super interesting because who set him on that path? Miss Minutes and Renslayers. So they shot themselves in the foot with that one.
Yeah, that's true. I continue on with Miss Minutes just because I think she's like becoming one of my favorite characters in the show.
Right?
Honestly. But in episode 4, Miss Minutes' face tells the whole story when all the people are crushed to death by Ravonna. I was like, whoa. Disney went a little dark there for a sec.
I appreciate that whole scene because it's terrible and it's atrocious and dark, but it's done so well. They choose very specifically not to show anything, which is very appreciated. They just rely on the actors watching, and then, like with B15 coming in on the aftermath, they just rely on that storytelling entirely, and that is peak storytelling. It was so good, and obviously so bad. Terrible and dark, but so good.
Well done.
Yeah, like this show, even from episode 1, has felt almost like a sci-fi horror at times. Like it has a lot of light comedy, and then it does like sci-fi horror, and it's like a weird mix of the two. The Marvel shows have got like a lot of the shows would not have pulled that, like balancing the tones. And this show I feel like has, because even from the beginning, like Loki phasing in and out, like that was unsettling in the first episode, and then the crushing thing in episode 2, and then the end of episode 4. Man, they have gone dark in some of these moments.
You said unsettling, so it made me think of it. Something that makes me so unsettled, I don't even know why. And this goes back to set design. Not a mural because it's 3D, but the mural of the He Who Remains heads that they keep showing shots of makes me so uncomfortable, but in a brilliant way, because typically in a mural like that, you'd have the middle head that's looking forward, right? And then the two on the side would be exactly mirrored, like they'd be looking the other directions, but exactly mirrored. But it's not. All 5 heads are looking in different directions. So it's these awful angles that are just so unsettling. And the reason they keep using those shots of that room and that mural is because it's unsettling and they want you to feel jarred because it is jarring. It doesn't make artistic sense.
Yeah. Have you noticed with that? Because at least the middle one doesn't look all that similar to this Kang. Obviously, they're all Kang, but it's like a totally different hairstyle than this Kang. So are they all the same variant of Kang? Or have you noticed is there enough difference between them that they're all supposed to be different variants of him?
That's what I'm wondering too. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It would be fun if they were all like slightly different variations. But exactly, it's unsettling.
Yeah, and Jonathan Majors, just in general, I feel has been, I think we touched on it, but he's only been in like what, 2 episodes of this season, but just been really awesome. You can have great actors in there, but you have someone that has his talent walk in and just steals every scene he's in. Like in tonight's episode, when he's being sat down in front of Ravonna and Miss Minutes, even his delivery of, thank God you're both okay. The way he's delivering and the facial emotions, just done at such a high level. I love it.
On that note, less about the actor and more about the character. I don't know if they did this on purpose. I haven't fact checked it or looked into it. But if I hear a word in a show or a movie that I don't know, and I also can't figure out what it means through the context of what's being said, I try to look it up because I'm like, that's such an interesting word. What does it mean? Can I use it? When he says that he's from Chicago and it's peak studiocracy or however he says it. That's not a real word. That is not a real word. I looked it up. It doesn't exist. So are they trying to say that he's so brilliant that he's like a Shakespeare who's creating all of these words and is shaping humanity? Because Shakespeare, I don't know the actual statistic, but Shakespeare basically created hundreds to thousands of words of the English language that we use today just normally. So are they saying he's that much of an intellect that he's creating words? I don't know. Could be very off the wall theory, and they could maybe not have done it on purpose. Maybe someone who was writing it thought it was a word. It's not a word. Makes me very interested.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I like the theory that that's what they're getting at, is that he's not only this brilliant inventor when it comes to technology, but also language, because he does just have such a great command of speech, which while also having a stuttering problem, which is that's a tough combination to pull off. Like, you have to be brilliant to do that.
Yeah.
And like, that's the way that like she times the pauses of his stutters to emphasize things. Like, that's impressive.
I love it so much.
That's a really good point that I hadn't thought of, John. But yeah, it just deepens the complexity of the character.
I loved when he was showing off his machine and someone makes some snarky remark about what do you know? And he's like, more than you might think. It was just brilliant. I thought, just like great pause where it's like a dig at him. And then he finishes like, oh, okay. But I think that's intentional, where he's trying to make a dig at him, but he doesn't want it to be perceived as intentional.
Yes.
That's true, because if we look at it, especially through the lens of that time in America, this African American guy is up on stage in front of basically a crowd of white people. So I think you have a really good point there, John. Like, he's getting his little dig in, but he's like, hey, I'm not going to rile up this crowd against me. On with the show. Yeah, it's a great point. Something that I was a little blurry on, maybe it wasn't explained, maybe it was and I missed it, but I wanted to ask you both about it, is Loki pruning himself in the first episode and then us getting to witness it in the fourth episode. Is that just time travel? Or how did that work?
I think so. And I don't know now if it's going to be like a weird time loop where are we experiencing a Groundhog Day thing where now the Loki that gets pruned, now he's self-aware again. And so now he's going to try and fix it a different way, or what they're going to do with that. But it's very interesting. And I was very excited. The second Sylvia got in the elevator, I was like, oh, this is where we're at. Like, now we're getting back. This is what's going to happen now. Like, I can see it happening. And then sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, like when that happened in episode 1, I thought that was actually part of him getting pulled through the time thing, because I didn't realize yet that it didn't work. So I had forgotten about that part where he got pruned to episode 4. So that was actually surprising for me.
Yeah, I had put it behind me after episode 2. I was like, okay, we didn't really get that. I guess that may never pop up again. But yeah, I thought it was just super interesting how they set that up, because then we ends with pretty dramatic final scene here in episode 4. Victor Timely is, I'll take one for the team, and instantaneously is turned into spaghetti by radiation as soon as he walks out, which I was not expecting whatsoever. I like turned to Sarah and was like, wait, did I miss something? What happened with this suit? Radiation was just crazy.
This is not my theory, so I can't take credit for it. But Max's theory, he has 2 theories with this that they're like combined.
Okay.
He is wondering, which I'm excited about the prospect, so I'm now stealing his theory. So in Multiverse of Madness, right, Wanda turns Mr. Fantastic into this very similar spaghettification, whatever. Max was wondering if Victor Timely is outsmarting us all, and when they turned the magic back on in the TVA, now he has magical powers, and he spaghettified himself, or at least made it appear that he spaghettified himself, and is somehow now the only person surviving it. And then that leads into the second theory, that the Citadel at the end of time is that room but exploded, because that room at like the Citadel at the end of time is decorated, is made up in the Katsugi art form, like the Japanese art form where you take broken things and you mend it with gold. And the room is much darker than the one we were in, obviously. Like the one we were in is a lot of whites and blues and silvers. The Citadel at the end of time is black and gold. And the door that goes out to the loom is that round circular door, just like the window that He Who Remains is sitting in front of. He's wondering if it all is looped together like that or what's happening. But it was interesting, so I wanted to share it.
That is really interesting. Before he got blown up in his spaghetti, I thought that Victor Timely had some hidden motivation to wanting to suit up and go out there. And then I let that all go as soon as he became radiation. But that would fit with my thought process when it came to Victor Timely having his own agenda, so to speak.
Yeah, because I've never
Interesting, though.
fully trusted him. I
Right.
want, because he seems very innocent,
Mhm.
but something's got to be under there. He's literally a variant of King. He's too smart for any of this. I don't trust him, and I haven't trusted him. I want to. Even that whole speech to Sylvie when he's begging for his life, I wanted that to be completely and entirely genuine, but I don't know if it was. Like, I can't trust him. I cannot.
Yeah. And also go into like the can't trust him. Like, well, he's pretty clearly a swindler selling like only partially working inventions to people when we first meet him. And so like he's got that shiftiness about him. Like he's a sketchy dude, even though he also is very sincere, or at least plays it very sincere. And so yeah, I don't know. I like your theory or Max's theory, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I do like that theory. It's very interesting to think about now. Because I was just like, I have no idea what the hell's going to happen next week.
I was just going to say, to be clear, I'm not saying the theory is like crazy or off base. I'm just saying like where we're at in the show is so crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Like, I really wrapped this all up in 2 episodes because I made it 6 episodes for some reason, of course.
Mhm.
Which, season 1 was also 6 episodes, granted. But the Ahsoka show that, we just covered on the podcast, that was 8. And that felt okay. I was okay with 8 episodes. Like, they were able to lay down a story, tell it, wrap it up at least semi-wrapped in an okay space. And honestly, season 1 kind of left off with a, whoa, what's going to happen now finale that we haven't really seen impact too much. So I don't know if this is going to be like, okay, Loki, the show, is wrapped up, and now we're jumping into the rest of the MCU with Kang and everything, or if we are going to get a season 3 of Loki. I'm really up in the air about it because it seems like it could really go either way.
And speaking of off and is it going to impact the MCU, that's what I want to know, because all the timelines just exploded. So that has to affect the sacred timeline. That has to affect the MCU, right? I'm going to be mad if, just like we've already talked about in some of these podcasts, it doesn't connect to any of the movies. There's got to be something, right? Or is it just going to be entirely self-contained? Obviously, they're probably going to fix everything by episode 6, so they wouldn't necessarily have to explain it. But what if they didn't fix it by episode 6? And what if it's the reason we get some of these later movies? That would be preferable, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I hope that if they don't fix it fully by episode 6, and we're still left in just this chaotic space of everything is broken even worse than it was, that I hope they do what Ant-Man 2 did, where they tell its own story that like this has nothing to do with Infinity War, where this is odd, fun little story, but doesn't really feel like it ties in. And then post-credits scene, you're like, oh, but everyone gets snapped away except Ant-Man who's stuck in the quantum realm. I hope they do that with post-credit scenes of the Marvels. They show this fun little adventure with these 3 very different characters all converging together. And then all of a sudden, something really terrible happens post-credit based on this.
That is peak post-credit scenes. I'm tired of the post-credit scenes that aren't paying off yet. I want the ones that it's like, oh man, here we go. Exactly.
Yeah, remind us of why we were all so in love with the MCU through the Infinity Saga. Yeah, just tie it in, guys. Tell these different stories, but pull them together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think maybe on some degree, Disney/Marvel is realizing that they need to do a better job about that. Because I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Daredevil Born Again show was completely scrapped, and they're starting from scratch to rewrite the whole show now, which hopefully is a good sign. I'm taking it that way. I'm trying to be optimistic. So hopefully that is something that they're taking into account as we move forward with the MCU projects as a whole. Because yeah, right now it is a little scattered and doesn't hook me in like I have to watch every single thing as soon as it comes out. As we were talking about at the beginning of the show, some of us here are feeling that way. Some of us aren't, which is great. But yeah, hopefully they get their shit together.
For real. They're so close. They have to do just one or two things. All you got to do is pull it in even just a little bit. Just a little bit, because that's what like the first 3 phases did. Is a lot of those stories were self-contained, but they had one thing, either a post-credit scene or a detail that then connected it all. And it's so important because we have all these beautiful separate stories right now. And that's what I feel like they're doing is they're really trying to build the world. They're trying to create all of these characters that are very diverse. I love that aspect of it, but it's almost cheapening the fact that they don't seem like they're important to the MCU. Sure, we're going to tell this really important story of this very diverse character, but it's not going to matter. It can't matter. Like, why would we have them be in the main lineup of heroes or have them connect to the MCU as a whole? Come on, guys. You can do it. Just a tiny bit of effort. And all of a sudden, everything connects. And now we have this amazing. Oh, it would be so good if they just did it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that for the 2 upcoming Marvel movies, even if it's like 2026 and 27 or whatever they end up coming out, that at least those I want to really tie this all together. And but even before that, I want more hints of it because we've had broken, overpowered characters pop up in multiple shows now. Eternals are stupid overpowered. Wanda and like Doctor Strange and what's happening with TVA, all super powerful, super crazy. Like they should be tying in more. And Secret Invasion, Gaia, she becomes like broken OP, all the powers in one person. And that needs to all tie in together somehow. Like even Moon Knight, you're saying these Egyptian gods are doing this sort of stuff. Like how is no one else noticing in the MCU? Like all this needs to start bouncing off each other and having real effects on each other.
Yes, that's all I want. That's all I want in life.
Regardless, I am very excited for Deadpool 3. And maybe that'll be the one that wraps it all together. I don't know.
There are theories about that. There are theories that is what's going to bring it all together, which would be hilarious and just amazing because he was not a part of the MCU. So it'd be so funny if this random character who just comes into the MCU is the thing that fixes it, that makes it all connect. And they have a way to do that with the I'm Watch thingy, whatever it is from Deadpool 2. They can easily make things make sense. And it might not be entirely logical, but not everything in the MCU is. So just make it work. I'm so excited. I love the Deadpool movie so much. I'm ready.
And Hugh Jackman's supposed to be revising his role as Wolverine for that, right? Like
yeah, with his yellow suit.
I'm excited to get X-Men back like in the MCU. I'm so hyped for that because I like those old X-Men from like the 2000s. Like I know a lot of people didn't really like.
Yeah.
But like those were the first superhero movies I really got into.
Same.
And like bringing some of those original characters into the MCU could be so cool.
I'm so excited.
Lots to look forward to. Just hoping they figure it out. Yeah. Any other closing thoughts on Loki season 2 episodes 1 through 4 so far? I will say I'm hoping that the last 2 episodes are around the 45-minute mark. That'd be nice. Pad out a little bit of things because honestly, the credits alone at the end are 7 minutes long. So if you have a 45-minute episode, it's about 38.
Yeah, like I would be more worried about it because it feels like I have so much they need to do to wrap it up well because we're in a crazy cliffhanger after 4. but I trusted them to figure it out, how to do it well, just because they've done a great job of packing a lot into each of these episodes. And they've worked for me so far, at least.
That's a good point, John. Some of the episodes are a little bit on the shorter end, but it's well packed in. It doesn't feel like it's dragging or that it's too crammed in there, except for the billions of timelines getting killed off. That was like the one thing maybe we talked about that felt a little rushed, maybe, but otherwise, I would agree with you there for sure. Thank you both so much. It's been great joining the both of you. As always, like I said, definitely missed diving into Marvel with both of you. But next time, we will catch you all later.
Yeah.
Bye.
And that'll wrap up this episode of the Cinema Club. If you have not already, feel free to join the Cinema Club Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/cinema-club-TCC. And you can always listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and anywhere else you hear podcasts. Please consider also leaving us a review on iTunes. It really does help us reach more listeners. And also feel free to invite more new members to the Cinema Club podcast if you are enjoying the content that we're putting out. Also wanted to share that you can email Nick or myself at the cinemaclubtcc@gmail.com if you would like to be on the podcast in the future. And again, finally, we are completely supported by you, our listeners. So if you are wanting to support the show financially, please consider clicking the support button on our website. You can check that out again at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/cinema club. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next one.